Fantasy fans, welcome on in. We are First Round Fantasy, your home for second round advice. Thank you so much for joining us today. You're joined by me. I'm here, Gabriel Miramontes, as well as Jacob Bartley, Damon Ritz, and Joseph Morsaz. I got to find lingo to say your guys' names, Jacob and Damon. It's just Joseph Morsaz. It really just has like a cool tone to it, and I can play with it. You guys are just flat.
Well, I mean, you can play with me, but
hey, that's all the announcer, Gabe. You got to make it work, man.
I know. I'm playing around with things. We'll figure it out. Anyways, welcome, guys. It's been a minute, and if you're listening to this, guess what? We are 1 day away from the football season. Boys, how are we feeling?
Excited.
I can't believe it.
It's gonna be fun. We got Deshaun Watson, the new money man, and Patrick Mahomes, the mega money man, going at it on Thursday night. Texans and Chiefs up in Arrowhead. That'll be a good game to watch.
I'm gonna find out so much.
Well, I've been deciding Cooks. Should I bench Cooks for John Brown?
Well, Cooks is injured right now.
Yeah,
he sat out of practice.
He sat out of practice, and he said they're going to limit.
I think you're going to have to wait unless you're working or something.
I am.
Yeah, oof. I would just put John Brown in. To be honest, I mean, nothing you can do.
Yeah,
wait till the last moment. You can.
Well, we are 2 episodes away from moving into our weekly podcast, where we're going to give you guys a lot of great stuff. We do have a lot of great stuff planned, so we can't wait to present that to you guys. But today, we're getting into the NFC South. Tomorrow, you're going to get our ranking show. That's going to be some hot takes for sure. I can't wait to see it. I know we said we weren't going to go over the news, but I just thought this was funny, okay? And I'm sure you guys have already heard about it. I just want to get your percentage chances, all right? So Bud Light announced Tuesday, this was now a week ago, that anyone who drafted Gardner Minshew in the first round and won their league championship, starting Gardner Minshew throughout the year, would receive a season's worth of free beer. Oh. Guys, now we see this all the time, right? We see guys what was it, 2 years ago? Someone drafted a kicker in one of our leagues. Was it Johnny?
And then made the playoffs.
Right? So, I mean, it's not like you're not drafting a kicker. You're drafting a quarterback, right? A quarterback outside the top 15, maybe even 20. But what's the percentage chance that you guys would do that in a draft for a chance at Bud Light? Just note that we could be sponsored by Bud Light soon.
Well, look, if it's a free league, if I would have known if it's a free league, then I'll do it.
And Bud Light don't want you to be doing it during no free league.
How are they going to know?
Yeah. It's $100 league, all right?
If I would have known that before all these drafts, I would have Minshew as my quarterback in all 5 of them.
Dang, Damon. I just thought about this. It would have been so awesome if you would have chugged a nice drink of Bud Light right there, but you're drinking Michelob Ultras.
I'm going to reset for a dynasty draft again and then make Minshew Damon's first-round pick.
Oh, I'm down.
Anyways, I don't know. We'll put up an Instagram post tomorrow and have people talk about it. It should be fun. Like I said, we're getting into the NFC South today. It's good to be here because you know why? This is one of the best divisions of football and honestly one of the most exciting to talk about. And we're jumping right into it. First team on the list. Jacob, I didn't see your show notes before, so I'm going off.
Buccaneers.
Crap. Buccaneers. Let me scroll down. We're doing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 7-9 last year. Holy cow, did this team turn it around when they picked up Tom Brady from the New England Patriots in free agency. He's currently going in the 9th round of drafts. He finished as the number 13 QB last year. And that's kind of been a steady decline for him in Brady's later years. He's got a couple of hot finishes. Obviously, we've known about his years of fantasy dominance and just dominance in the NFL. Are any of you guys starting him as your number 1 QB? I know I am. I'm starting him as one of my double QBs.
If I wait on QB and I take him later in a draft, I will. But I don't have any Tom Brady stocks, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't have any Tom Brady stocks, but this is by far the best supporting cast that he's had in terms of Mike Evans
in a long time.
In a very long time.
Yeah. I don't have any stock in him either. It's not that I didn't want him. It's just it never really lined up with my draft. I noticed a couple guys during the drafts that we were doing kind of plucked him out a little bit early. Like he was going right after the top 6 or 7 QBs, and that just wasn't where I had him. So never ended up getting a chance to grab
he goes
him.
too high for me.
Yeah.
Well, Jacob, I have to mention you because back in our bold predictions show just about 2 months ago, you said that if anybody can dethrone Lamar Jackson, it was going to be the great Tom Brady. He was going to have
to mention Lamar Jackson's name in that.
And he was going to have a Peyton Manning-esque second year like he did in Denver when he threw 55 touchdowns.
I think that's still possible.
Oh,
but here's the thing. Look, people don't understand what bold predictions are. When people make bold predictions, they take it as like that's what you really think. It's when you make a bold prediction, you have to make a far fetch. You have to make it bold. That's far fetched, and I just think that that's possible. I think that's within the realm of possibility with his teammates and that he has there. It's crazy. Like I don't think he's ever had 2 top 6 receivers.
Never.
Or 2 top 7 receivers. Maybe Randy Moss was better than both of these guys, but he didn't have 2 of them. So even if he just had one of these guys in New England recently, that would have been crazy. So I just think it's possible, but it's not likely.
Yeah, well, that's definitely true. He's never had weapons like this before. Bruce Arians runs an air raid offense. I mean, despite what we might think about Brady as a game manager, he's known to throw it deep as well. So we're really going to test his arm here, at age 42? So he's got a lot to prove. And the reason why he left Tampa Bay in the first place is that, honestly, he wanted to prove to everybody that it wasn't Bill Belichick's team, it's Tom Brady's team. And he wants another ring, and I think he's got one of the best offenses to do it with. And let's talk about those weapons, right? Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. If you owned them last year, you had days of love and laughter, and you had days of sadness and despair. However, they both finished inside the top 15 last year. Mike Evans, number 15, and Chris Godwin as the number 2 overall. They both missed some games last year as well. Mike Evans missed 3, Chris Godwin missed 2. Godwin had 20 more catches and just under 200 yards. Godwin had 20 more catches and just under 200 yards more than Chris Evans. He also had 1 TD as well. That also goes to show how little of a disparity there is in those wide receiver rankings and why they always go so deep year after year. I'm going to stop talking, and I'll leave it up to you guys. Who do you want? Who are you taking this year? Chris Godwin or Chris Evans? Or you guys know what I'm talking about.
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans.
No, definitely not Mike Evans, though. The answer is Chris Godwin, and it's not even close. In my opinion, I think Mike Evans is going way too high in these drafts. His big plays last year were Winston chucking it down, 40, 50-yard bombs to Evans. I'm not sure that he's got that in him. I'm not going to doubt Tom Brady and say that he's not, but I'm looking at Brady like, look at how he used Edelman and turned him into a top 10 receiver. And now he's got Godwin, who's far more talented, younger, faster, better, stronger. He's going to keep Godwin up there in that top 5, I think, but I don't like Evans going as high as he is, which I think is wide receiver 7 or 8, something like that.
Yeah, currently ADP, they're like right around. Actually, Godwin's going sooner. Godwin's going at the beginning of the 3rd round. Mike Evans is going at the end of the 3rd round. So, yeah. Damon, what about you? What do you think? Mike Evans, Chris Godwin?
Well, and all these 5 drafts that I've had, I've ended up with 0 of them just because of their ADPs were a little too high at the time. And I think that a lot of their success last year came from Winston chucking it, and then their lack of a running game. So, I don't want either of them because they're going too high for me.
And Jacob, what about you?
Yeah, to Damont's point, they go where I'm getting my 2nd or 3rd running back, and I would rather take a running back and wide receiver. Look, I hear people say this all the time, and I don't necessarily agree with it every year, but this year wide receiver is so deep, like so freaking deep. It's crazy. So I'd rather
Marcus deep
on other guys, but You guys, we got to be careful and remember our rankings on top of our head. If not, Joe's going to call us out. So I know I have Mike Evans right above Chris Godwin, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason is I believe in the talent. Look, if not, I might have them flip-flopped. But the thing is, because of the quarterback who's throwing to them, Chris Godwin's going to have a better year. If you put both of them with Aaron Rodgers, I would say Mike Evans is going to have a better year. To be honest, it depends on the quarterback. If it's Big Ben, Mike Evans is going to have a better year. But it's Tom Brady, who we know utilized Julian Edelman to like the best of his ability. So I think realistically, Godwin is going to have a better year. But I like Mike Evans more. I would draft Mike Evans ahead of Chris Godwin just because I believe in the big playability.
Mike Evans has had 6 consecutive years over 1,000 yards. Last year, again, Chris Godwin had 1 more touchdown than Mike Evans. I just think that Tom Brady is still, like you said, he's going to be an orchestrator of that offense. He's going to keep it short, and Chris Godwin will feed between the 20s. However, in the red zone, I don't think they're going to be handing the ball off to Ronald Jones. I know they got the newly acquired Leonard Fournette. I don't know what his role is yet, but it certainly could be a goal line type of presence. But I know that Brady's going to throw a ton around the goal line. And if he is, I'd have my money on Evans rather than Godwin. And that's why I like Evans for the touchdown upside this year. Sure. And we'll talk about it more tomorrow, I'm sure, because I have him ranked pretty high as well on my rankings. I won't get into it because I'm thinking about adjusting it. So that's why I'm lucky we're doing this last minute. More work for you, Joe. Damon mentioned the running back core. Now, yes, it is still a work in progress. However, I wrote these show notes a week ago, so it shows how dated I am because I did not update the signing of Leonard Fournette. It just brings a huge murkiness to this backfield. However, I mean, I still am a fan of Ronald Jones. I know that he hasn't had the opportunity he would have liked to have had so far in his NFL career, and they bring someone like the caliber of Leonard Fournette into for some unforeseen role now. But there's just it's murky now, boys. It's murky as it could get. So who are you thinking? Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. They cut Ulibawande. I don't know how you pronounce it. LaShawn McCoy is there, so you know he's going to get some passing down work. And you also have the rookie Keyshawn Vaughn. You can't say that this backfield is going to be irrelevant. They're most likely going to be relevant for the NFL purposes, but with all those heads in there getting some sort of action, I'm waiting a few weeks, and if not, probably just bypassing them altogether and trying to figure it out later in the year if I want to trade for one of them when someone gets hot. What about you guys?
Ugh, I hate it. I hate this situation, man. Like I'm stuck with Fournette in a keeper league, and it's the worst. And there's nothing you can do. You can't trade him. You can't drop him. You have to keep him because you don't know what's going to happen. He could. I texted Joe jokingly. I was like, he's LeGarrette Blount 2.0. Like he could have that kind of year. I'm not saying 18 touchdowns, but he could have 12 touchdowns this year because they're just going to give it to the biggest guy they got in the end zone. But look, since this happened, I haven't drafted any of them. So that's you. And I've had like 3 drafts since then, and I'm staying away.
I mean, both of them have plummeted in terms of ADP. Ronald Jones was going in the 6th round. Now he's going in the 8th. And Leonard Fournette felt like a pretty comfortable 4th round pick because you were guaranteed that workload. I mean, we just did a draft yesterday, Jacob. That guy didn't even fly off the board until like the 10th or 11th round.
Yeah.
Like, he sat for a while. Damon, you were about to say something. What do you think?
I think it's easy, and I think it's Fournette. There's a reason. This team is like a glass cannon. They're trying to win, and they're trying to win now. And they threw somebody like Fournette in there, and he's going to get all the touchdowns. Tom Brady does like 1 QB sneak a year. Fournette is he's going to have double-digit touchdowns. Easily.
You know what?
I wouldn't even doubt that.
You bring up a really good point, Damon, and I think back to those New England years where you had someone like, I don't know, let's say James White, who just feasted PPR value-wise inside the 20s, and then they gave it to LeGarrette Blount at the goal line, and then you have Garrett Blount getting those 10, 12 touchdown seasons. So I could totally see a scenario like that. I don't even know if it's Ronald Jones who's getting the passing work, though. It could very well be LaShawn McCoy or Keyshawn Vaughn. If I'm taking anybody, I probably agree with Damon. I want Leonard Fournette because of the touchdown capabilities. Joe, what about you?
So I'm going to kind of go off of what Damon said, but I'm going to take it a step further. We talked about how you guys have been avoiding this backfield. I actually like it more now because before they got Leonard Fournette, I was not touching Ronald Jones in the 6th round. So that wasn't even an option for me. But now with Fournette, like you said, slipping maybe to the 10th or 9th or whatever that is, I love that value because he's way more talented than him. And people forget about it. Gabe, you're an example right here. You said, who's going to get the passing work? You don't even mention Fournette. Fournette had 70-something catches last year. He was very involved in the pass game in Jacksonville. He's going to be involved in the pass game in Tampa with Brady throwing it off to him. And there's no reason to think that he can't kind of replicate a little bit of White did, but still get the goal line work. And I think, like Damon said, they're trying to win a championship. And if Fournette comes out and totally outplays Ronald Jones like I expect him to, it's going to take a couple of weeks. So my rankings kind of reflect that you need to sit back and wait. You may not get that Fournette till week 4 or week 6. But I think when you do, he could end up being a big factor for your team in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think we're all leaning towards Leonard Fournette. And I get it, Joe. You bring up Jacksonville, and that's because he was the only guy there. Like, of course, they're going to force feed someone 70 passes out of the backfield when Gardner Minshew is running for his life every waking moment. The team looks like they're in, I don't know, you guys big to say tank mode? I don't know just yet. But
absolutely, yeah.
It doesn't look good there in Jacksonville. However, we talked about them before. There's some fantasy options there, but not enough to get into today because we're talking about the NFC South. One last man we got to talk about, and that is the man
Hold on. Chris Thompson or Fournette?
Oh, Chris Thompson.
Fournette.
Yeah, I'm not
Standard
even
league?
Thinking about drafting Chris Thompson.
Standard league, Fournette, half PPR.
With
Fournette.
I think it's Fournette.
PPR.
Oh, man. We talk about men leagues, PPR, point per reception. We don't talk standard leagues around here.
It's still Fournette.
I'm bringing it up.
We got the
PPR,
tight ends, right?
Yeah. Let's talk Gronk.
Tight ends, Gronk, guys. ADP 801. He was once the great man who he was. Now he's coming out of retirement. We talked about it before, actually. Joe had mentioned that, a year of rest does the body some good. I don't see him returning any sort of fantasy value this year. But you know what? I actually immediately take that back. The last time that we saw Rob Gronkowski crack the top 10, he was he didn't even crack the top 10. He was the number 11 tight end in 2018.
Well, last time he played a full season, yeah.
Yeah, he was the number 11 tight end. Now I just feel like there's way too many options there. He's decoy or bust. He's going to have his big games, but for the most part, I'm staying away from Rob Gronkowski. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think Gronkowski is going to be like a playoff football player, like not a fantasy football player. Like he's gonna make that team better, like you said, as a decoy, and they're going to kind of keep him healthy till he has to actually work in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
He'll have his big weeks, couple here and there, but I don't see it. There's just in his position alone, there's too many guys there to feed the ball to, as well as he's not even the biggest guy on the field now. Mike Evans is probably going to get a lot of those end zone targets. So, look, he's a good streamer guy. The thing is, he's being drafted as a top 10 tight end, but he's a good streamer guy. He's a good guy. Like if you have, I draft Mike Gesicki a lot in a lot of leagues, and maybe he doesn't work out like I planned. Maybe I have both of those guys to see how it works out, something like that. But I'm not drafting him as a top 8 tight end.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think when you guys are saying big weeks too, I think a big week for Gronk is going to be 3 catches, 20 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Exactly. That's exactly what I mean.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
Touchdowns. He's not going to have those 8-catch, 80-yard games that you might get from like Higbee or Evan Engram. I just don't see that. One, there's too many options. 2, they're trying to win a Super Bowl. They're not trying to bust Gronkowski out.
Yeah, exactly.
And put him in a place to get hurt. So I don't see it.
Yeah, that's a really good assessment. Jacob,
we got the Falcons up next.
Lucky me, that's where I was going. The Atlanta Falcons, 7-9 last year. they're looking to do some new things with a couple of new pieces and a couple of emerging stars, most notably Calvin Ridley. And you can't mention Calvin Ridley without talking about Julio Jones. And let's get right into it. Julio Jones, ADP, currently going in the second round, first or second pick, maybe even the fourth if he waits that long. He finished as the number 3 fantasy wide receiver last year with 157 targets, 99 receptions, 1,400 yards, and 6 TDs. Calvin Ridley, his emerging counterpart, currently going in the 5th round and finished as the number 27 receiver last year with 93 targets, 63 receptions, 866 yards, and 7 TDs. He did that in 13 games, by the way. So both of these guys are certainly fantasy relevant, especially when Matt Ryan is throwing the ball 640-something times a season. You can't help but have one of them. I've been hearing a lot of rumors, though, that suggest that this is the year that Ridley surpasses Julio Jones in terms of fantasy value and just an overall NFL. Is that just a rumor, or is there some truth to that? Because I'm starting to get scared as a Julio Jones dynasty owner. What are you guys thinking?
Not yet. I think this is like year 2 for Julio Jones when he came in and Roddy White was still the man over there. I think this year, both of them, and I'm going to make a bold prediction right here like Jacob likes to talk about. It's not that this is going to be reflected in my rankings necessarily, but I think Calvin Ridley could be this year's Chris Godwin, where he can win you leagues. You grab him in the 5th, 6th round, wherever he's going, 5th, 4th, 5th, 6th round, somewhere around there, and he ends up being top 5 wide receivers. He's got the talent. His quarterback loves to throw. He's got Todd Gurley back there now, but I don't trust him to be a 300 carry kind of a guy anymore. So we know they love to throw the ball. And Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones can both top 1,200 yards, I think is where my prediction's at. And Calvin Ridley's had some big years with touchdowns already going into his 3rd season. So I like both of them a lot.
Joe, let me ask you this then. So would you consider bypassing Julio at his draft price currently in the 2nd round, knowing that, Calvin Ridley, his teammate, could very well see 120 targets. Again, 93 last year, and he missed 3 games. 120 targets is a lot of targets. So would you bypass Julio at his draft price and take Calvin Ridley later on in the 5th round?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't take Julio at all this year, and it's not because I don't believe in him. It's just I don't like – I like Jacob said, in the 2nd round, I'm trying to shore up my running back spot. I'm not trying to go after a wide receiver yet. I'm more happy just waiting till the 5th and 6th round and grabbing guys like Kupp and Ridley rather than grabbing Julio in the 2nd round.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I do have Julio in a fantasy league, but that was through a trade. I probably wouldn't draft him there. I'd much rather have Calvin Ridley in the 5th round after I shored up my running backs. Mon, anything to add?
I mean, I feel the same about Julio. I'd rather skip Julio and get Ridley. Like, drafting Julio is kind of like having when your remote is like dead batteries, but you can kind of get them to work a little bit every now and again. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I hate turning on a football game and then like seeing him stretching on a sideline. It's so
when you have him in fantasy. But bro, he finishes number 3 on the year still.
I don't know how he does it. I'd rather just watch Ridley play every snap.
It's really funny that you bring that up because there seems to be this sort of connotation associated with Julio Jones and that he's an injury guy. And although he is always on the sideline, he's always missing 1 or 2 plays throughout the game, and you're always like, oh my gosh, is this guy gone? He's played in the majority of games throughout the last 3 years. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it's an overwhelming amount. Like, he doesn't miss. Thank you, Joe.
He's missed 4 games in 6 years.
Exactly.
How many games?
They don't count how many games he leaves and then come back.
He leaves like every game.
Doesn't come back.
I still don't think it's that many. I think we have 1 year in our mind.
It's every game, Gabe. He leaves.
Guys, he's averaging 160 targets, 200 targets, 130 targets, 150 targets, 170 targets, 160 targets. He's getting the targets. It's not like he's disappearing for 2 quarters. He takes a playoff. He comes back. Sure.
Okay, but what happened to Roddy White when Julio emerged? It's like,
Yeah, he's starting to break down, and I agree. That's going to happen. I just don't see it this year. I see it more next year.
I
Julio's
love
got-
Julio in redraft. Look, the thing is, there's only like 12 really good running backs, so I gotta get 2 of them in the first 2 rounds. I just have to. So the thing is, I'm not gonna end up with Julio, but I love Julio this year. Especially this year. And if it's gonna happen next year, I think, where he surpasses him. But I'm gonna probably try to trade for Julio in one of my leagues once one of my bench running backs start going off or something like that.
Yeah. And to kind of elaborate, guys, something else that's kind of interesting. Julio Jones is entering his 31 season. Roddy White's last elite season was his year 31 season, where he still had 92 catches, 1,350 yards. And the very next year, you can basically cut that in half. He had 63 and 711. So I think that this is Julio's last super elite year before Ridley starts to take over.
Dun, dun, dun.
damn.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see. Good times with Julio Jones. Let's continue it on at least this year. Let's talk about the guy throwing on the ball. Matt Ryan finishes the number 11 QB last year in 10-man leagues. That makes him a little obsolete, although people are starting him, of course. And in 12-man leagues, he's certainly a starter every week in and week out. He threw the ball. He was top 3 in pass attempts last year, 616. He missed 1 game, and he was only 10 throws behind Jared Goff. So it was safe to say that he was going to lead the league in pass attempts last year, which is why we love Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley so much, is that they're both going to get upwards of 120, 130 targets this year. It's crazy. However, I don't know. I don't know what you guys want to say about him. I'm not too worried about his top 10 finish. I think he's a weekly starter. I don't know. I'd probably draft him. What about you guys?
I mean, yeah, I draft him. You're not going to reach for him or nothing, but you'll take him at the end of the draft.
Let's do it this way. These are the top 3. So there are 2 other guys ahead of him last year in pass attempts. Let's see who you'd rather have. Jacob, would you rather have Matt Ryan or Jared Goff?
Matt Ryan.
He finished as the number 13 quarterback last year. Jared Goff did. Let's see. Joe, would you rather have Matt Ryan or Carson Wentz?
Matt Ryan.
Ooh, Carson Wentz finished as the number 7 QB last year. What about you, Damon? Would you rather take any of those 2 over Matt Ryan?
I'd like Matt Ryan over both of them.
I would say I would enjoy having Carson Wentz on my team. It's just those options there for him are so depleted over there in Philadelphia. And I want the guy who's throwing the ball. So, yeah, I'd probably take that.
Funny the other day, and if you go back and look, Matt Ryan blows up every other year. And so last year was a down year, and this year he's going to be top 4.
Ooh.
Dude, he's going – isn't he like ranked number 6 overall?
That's not even a hot take, really.
I think he's number, I want to say 8, Jacob. 7 or 8, I think, behind Josh Allen.
Yeah, okay. So he's like the highest of the veteran quarterbacks. Like he's higher than Breeze. He's higher than Brady. He's
higher than Rodgers.
Higher than Stafford, higher than Rodgers. I like Matt Ryan. The thing is,
that's crazy.
He disappears from me in every draft. I can never get Matt Ryan because I wait a long time to draft my quarterbacks, and he goes way before I ever get a chance. But I would love to have Matt Ryan on one of my teams. I have him on no teams, though.
Yeah.
I'm laughing over here because I'm trying to figure out what rankings are you guys talking about, and I just keep referencing mine like I'm all knowing here. I'm like, guys, that's clearly not true because according to my rankings, but no, it's something interesting to see. I think he's going to be great this year for fantasy,
and he has no rushing value too, so he's so high without any rushing upside.
Yeah,
true. Like I said, when you throw the ball 620 plus times a season, you're going to have fantasy relevance. Let's talk about Todd Gurley, the newly acquired Todd Gurley, the man with the questionable knees, currently going in the end of the 3rd, top of the 4th. He finished as the number 14 running back last year. There's not a lot to say, guys. I mean, I'm sure there's tons to say. He's gonna probably get. Do you think the Falcons are going to be a committee backfield? I don't think so. So So with that being said, I think Gurley is going to get a large amount of work. I mean, let's see. Devontae Freeman, he saw workhorse loads his entire career with the Atlanta Falcons up until that last year when he was on and off injury.
Tevin Coleman still had a role, though, for a few of those years.
I don't know, guys. Todd Gurley has knees like my dad, though. So I feel like 12 to 15 touches a game. And I feel like in this offense, that's good.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, too, I'm not sure that you can say he's in a committee because I don't see Brian Hill or Ito Smith necessarily being a Philip Lindsay where it's a full-on committee approach. But I do think that those guys together are going to eat about 50% of the carries, where Todd Gurley's going to get 50 to 60%. I think really what it comes down to, guys, is he going to get work in the pass game? Because he was actually decent on the ground last year, but the big drop-off was that he didn't have those catches like he did the year before. And I think that's because a running back catching the ball, it creates big hits. And I think the Rams wanted to avoid those big hits with him. We'll see about the Falcons, man. I was so high on this guy coming into the season. And then 2 weeks ago I read he's walking around with a limp in practice. And
yeah.
It's the kind of –
Go ahead, Joe.
It's a make or break pick, because you're taking him in the 4th round, and either he's going – I don't think there's a middle ground for him. I either think he's going to have a really good year, he's going to get those pass catches, he's going to get those touchdowns, or we're going to see that he's actually bum knees like your dad, and he just doesn't have that value anymore.
Yeah,
Mr. Ricks, if you're out there, I think you still like you did.
I feel like if you have Gurley if you have Gurley sitting in your flex spot, you're good. I feel like if you have him in your RB2 spot, you're okay.
Yeah.
That's a fair assessment. I mean, Joe, you brought up the fourth round. Let's talk about it. And I'll start with Jacob. David Johnson or Todd Gurley?
Oh, that is so tough, but I'm going to lean towards David Johnson.
Yeah. Fair enough. Ooh. Joe, Todd Gurley or Jonathan Taylor?
Easy. In a redraft league, I'm probably going Todd Gurley.
Fair enough. And Damon, Todd Gurley or Le'Veon Bell?
Le'Veon. So I feel like Le'Veon would get more touches.
Yeah. Exactly. That brings me to my next question. Do you think Gurley sees over 200 carries this year? That puts him in that workhorse territory.
No. If he plays 16 games, yes. If he plays 16 games, yes.
Come on, it's not far off from what you just said, man. If he plays 16 games, that's 12 and a half carries a game. So I think he gets there.
That's the only question for me. Does he play every game?
Yeah. So with that being said, let's just say in a hypothetical world, he's healthy, right? We see him get over 200 carries. Does that make Ito Smith or Brian Hill one of those premier handcuffs that we see when we're talking about, Ezekiel Elliott's and Saquon's and all of that?
No, I don't want nobody. Is Keith Smith a fullback?
Yeah, we're talking Brian.
If Todd really gets hurt, I'd rather have Keith Sweat. So
they should have signed Leonard Fournette, to be honest.
Well, I think the problem here, guys, is that when you look at those guys that have the premium handcuffs like Madison and Pollard, we know who's the direct number 2. And so if we go into the season and we see Brian Hill's getting 8-9 carries a game and Ito Smith is only getting 1 or 2, that could put Brian Hill on the radar. But until we see that, there's no way for us to know.
Exactly. And you can't draft both of them. So,
yeah.
So, Gabe, let's talk Hayden Hurst.
Yep, Hayden Hurst, guys. What do you think? I mean, he takes over the Austin Hooper role where we saw him light the world or at least the fantasy world on fire last year. Can he replicate what Hooper was able to do last year? Are you taking him at all? Like, what do you think?
No, but he's not going to replicate what Hooper did. But I like him a lot because he's not going too high. I have him in a couple leagues, and I think he has that role. He's going to get a lot of targets, and he was decent in flashes in Baltimore. So I like him where his ADP is.
Isn't that crazy to think? Just think about that. Julio sees 150 targets. Ridley sees 145 targets. Guess what? There's still over 300 targets left there for someone, and that's got to be Hayden Hurst, Gage. I mean, there's just so many fantasy relevant people there who you can spot start when you have a quarterback throwing the ball that much.
I don't know. I think his name is cooler than what kind of value.
Hey,
I mean, he hasn't got more than 4 receptions in a game all of last year. I don't want him.
Yeah, but last year he was behind Mark Andrews, guys, and he was a first-round pick. He actually got drafted ahead of Mark Andrews when they were drafted in real life, and he has some fantasy relevance in Atlanta. I'm with Jacob. My plan this year was to wait on tight ends. Kittle, those guys were going way too high for me. So I ended up going with the Hayden Hurst, Evan Ingram, or Hayden Hurst and Austin Hooper, or Hayden Hurst and Higbee. And I would draft these guys 9th, 10th round back to back. And I love my position with all of those.
You think he finished in top 10 this year?
Yeah.
That's easy in tight end, though.
Yeah,
It's
top
pop-
10 tight end.
but not
Definitely.
top 5, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't want him.
We
All
got
right,
the Panthers next.
Oh, I'm on a roll now. Sweet.
Who are we on now? You say Panthers?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Carolina Panthers completely revamped at 5-9 last year. They're doing something different. They brought in Teddy Bridgewater, baby. They paid him the money to be the star quarterback. No more Cam Newton. And oh boy, is it going to be fun to watch Teddy Bridgewater. ADP, he doesn't really have one. Take him if you want him. That's the kind of QB he is. I don't think there's much to talk about there. Unless he proves himself, he's a week-to-week spot start during bye weeks until we see some really good things from Teddy Bridgewater. That doesn't mean that I don't think he's going to be great in terms of the NFL. For fantasy, I'm probably laying off of him for right now. But, again, Christian McCaffrey. Guys, I think he's probably the worst running back in all of football, and here's why. Yeah, exactly. I didn't get any laughs out of that like I thought I would. Thanks, Damon.
You're welcome.
ADP 101. Guys, we talked about it a few weeks ago. This is often a conversation that comes up all the time. I mean, just given the amount of volume that he is going to receive on this team, you have to keep him there. You have to draft him as that RB1. But, I mean, it's very likely that we're going to see him repeat this year. But that upside and that volume is just something you can't turn your head away from. Unless you're who? Johnny? Johnny took Saquon Barkley over CMC. So
I don't think there's much more to say. If you have the first pick, take him. If you don't, you're not going to get him.
Yeah.
fair to say.
No trading for him.
I eat my words, you guys. White running backs matter. I apologize to McCaffrey because I remember when he was a rookie. Remember what I said, Gabe? He's going to get hit one time and be dead.
Yeah, you said he was a glass cannon. That's right.
Yeah, but he's fucking still cannoning.
Yeah. Leonard Fournette was.
Damon's been waiting 13 years to say white running backs matter because that's the last time we saw. Oh, I guess Peyton Hills made the
Peyton
matter.
Hills did have a season.
So that's fair. But he was like a full – I don't know. That was an anomaly. Anyways, let's talk about DJ Moore, ADP, currently in the 4th round. I love him this year, especially because Teddy Bridgewater is an accurate QB. He's going to be looking for those short routes. That's what DJ Moore excels at. 135 targets last year, and that was with poor QB play. He still ended up as the number 16 wide receiver on the year. It's safe to say I have him in my top 10. What about you guys? Do you think he increases or stays the same in terms of fantasy relevance?
I think DJ Moore is the safe one in this team. Because he's the most talented, and I feel like Bridgewater is going to lean on the more talented guy. But the guys like Samuel and Robbie Anderson, I don't want no part of. But DJ Moore, I feel like, I think he's going to stay the same. I don't think he's going to increase because Bridgewater is more of a game manager than a go-getter.
Yeah, and Damon and I both brought that up, that he is a game manager, and that's why that's why at least I love DJ so much. But even despite that, he's very accurate when throwing the ball deep as well. So that does give a little bit of relevance, especially during bye week, spot starts, flex plays for players like Curtis Samuel and even Robbie Anderson, who was newly acquired for the Jets over the offseason. I mean, those guys are looking at, what, 3 catches for 93 yards and a bomb. So it's entirely possible that they're relevant.
When Bridgewater stepped in for Breeze last year, I don't think Michael Thomas, missed a step. He was still putting the same numbers up. So I think Jay Moore could and look, I think Teddy Bridgewater is an upgrade from Kyle Allen and whoever else was playing last year. So
true.
But still, DJ Moore's, I think he's ranked like number 9 on ESPN. I think that's a good number. I think he's around that 10 spot. I love him in the 4th round because if you can get, 2 running backs or 3 running backs and then get DJ Moore, or if you get 2 running backs and a better wide receiver and DJ Moore in the first 4 rounds, that's amazing. So I love his ADP.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Joe, you're silent so far. What do you think? Mostly in agreement?
Yeah, absolutely. Teddy Bridgewater couldn't be a better quarterback to put with DJ Moore. I love the way that that's going to work out. Just short routes, give it to Moore, let him get some yak. And like Jacob said, and I was going to bring it up, without comparing DJ Moore to Michael Thomas, because obviously Michael Thomas is on another level of elite.
Sure, yeah.
Michael Thomas's best game last year was with Teddy Bridgewater, and his targets didn't go down aside from week 3 when he had 7, which was his lowest. But aside from that, he didn't miss a step. So I love it. And again, like Damon said, you're not touching Samuel. You're not touching Robbie Anderson. No. Take a wait-and-see approach on those guys. But DJ Moore, 4th round all day.
So you're sitting 4th round. Are you going to go more over somebody like a Diggs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Easy? Is it easy for you guys?
It's easy for me. It's easy for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's someone like a DJ Moore and Allen Robinson. That makes it easy for you, Damon, right?
Allen, that's not even close.
And Dave, it's up to you if you want to talk to tight ends, man.
No, there's no.
I don't want any Carolina tight end.
We'll see him later. We're moving on to the last team of the night.
Be like the number 1 tight end.
I know, and we completely missed him. I blame you, Jacob. Moving on to the New Orleans Saints. They are, of course, one of the premier Super Bowl contenders last year and going into this year. 13-3. I know, right? I don't want to talk about it. How can you let Kamara slip to 9 spot and not take him, and then at the turn get Michael Thomas? That was an easy pick for me. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's talk about Drew Brees first. ADP currently going in the 9th round. It makes him one of the last top 10 quarterbacks to take. In 11 games last year, we talked about Bridgewater in his absence. Brees had 7 3-touchdown games. That's incredible. So he was mostly nothing short of great. He had 27 touchdowns in just 11 games. Guys, he seems to have not lost a step. If we talk about Michael Thomas not losing a step in his absence, Drew Brees hasn't lost a step with age. Like, he seems to be doing just fine. I would gladly take him as my starter. What about you guys? 9th round ADP? Yeah, I'm taking Drew Brees.
It depends on the situation. Like, I have Michael Thomas in the league, and I took Drew Brees. He was like the best quarterback on the board left. And I forget what round it was, but I have Michael Thomas. So I like stacking the best wide receivers in the league with their quarterback. And because that wide receiver is going to have big numbers, a lot of targets, touchdowns, and all those points translate to the quarterback getting points as well. So I took Drew Brees in that situation. I might not have taken him if I didn't have Thomas, but I was glad to get him, though. He was like the last really good quarterback on the board at the time. So it just depends.
Yeah, I think if you get Drew Brees, I think Drew Brees is a league winner. He played in 11 games? You said, Gabe?
Yes, sir.
And he plays in 5 more. That's 300 yards a game. It's ridiculous. And then the 4 interceptions in those 11 games.
Oh yeah, highly accurate.
Yeah, super accurate. I think if you can get him super late, he's a league winner.
Yeah.
Joe?
No,
Joe's like, yeah. Let's get to the good stuff.
Listen, man. The problem with him, okay, and I know this sounds crazy because on any other
I
team,
love you, man.
never
I
work.
love devil's advocate. Let's go.
They will never, ever. Okay, this is crazy because no other team would do this, but Sean Payton is a different kind of animal. I think that he's actually going to draw up some plays for Winston and for Hill this year.
Yeah.
It's crazy that this is actually kind of a quarterback by committee. I kind of think it is. Drew Brees is 43, man. They're saving him for the playoffs. I don't know.
Well, they're not going to draw plays for Jameis Winston. Throw an interception.
Actually,
James,
did it last
year,
but I don't think it's not going to be anything crazy like 80%.
No.
It'll
be the same amount of volume that Taysom Hill had. They'll put him in the Wildcat. He'll get a few runs. It's not going to affect.
guarantee you will see Jameis on some plays, though.
Yeah, and dude, the thing is, Drew Brees is only a year older. He's only a year more injured. And Jameis Winston, he's kind of like a Teddy Bridgewater, but with a bigger arm. So I'm in.
Can
quarterback like him.
But man, that's Bruce Arians' offense where he just sends Evans out and throw an 80-yard bomb. This is Sean Payton's offense with Michael Thomas and Kamara. I think Jameis Winston is going to take over Drew Brees' job at the end of the year because Brees is going to retire, and I think Sean Payton's going to want to see what he can do.
Jameis Winston is about 80 pounds overweight. Taysom Hill's athletic and can jump over people.
Well,
Jameis Winston can run wild.
I think this is a conversation for a different day because it's not going to happen anytime soon. It looks to be an off-season type of discussion. But, I mean, Jameis Winston, guys, he was like the number 4 QB last year despite all number 2. Thank you. Yeah. So there's fantasy relevance there. He's there to learn from one of the great ones. I don't know if he's going to poach so much on Drew Brees', whatever you guys want to talk about. That's some hot takes, and I'm the one responsible for hot takes around here. So we're moving on, and I'm shutting it down. Let's talk about Michael Thomas. There's not much to talk about. However, I do have a quick question because his current ADP is the 107. He's the first wide receiver off the board. The last 2 years, we've seen this man take 147 targets and 185 targets. That's a ton. I personally do not believe that he is going to see that this year. I definitely don't think he's seeing 185. I maybe beg to differ. Don't think he's going to be around that 147 range. And this is another hot take. See, I told you I'm the only one allowed to do hot takes around here. I think that Emmanuel Sanders coming in is probably one of the best number 2 options. Is one of the best number 2 options that Brees has had in at least the last 3 years since Brandon Cooks was there.
Stop with the hot takes, man.
Really Sneed.
I love Emmanuel Sanders in real life, man, but he is not fantasy relevant. And Michael Thomas is not taking his targets.
Taking great one.
Dude, Thomas is getting 150 targets at least.
Emmanuel Sanders is fantasy relevant. I just believe that he's there to do a job, and his job is going to be to take pressure off of Michael Thomas.
Absolutely.
And he's going to get targets. I don't think Brees had a sufficient second option there with Jaquan Treadwell or whoever was there last season.
I mean, there's just kind of like a community approach to the second spot. Ted Ginn, Traquan Smith. Dude, Emmanuel Sanders, when he came to the Niners, he made big plays, but it was like 2 or 3 catches for 35 yards. And that is what he does, and that is what he's going to do. He's not going to take off Michael Thomas's plate. Jacob's right. He's getting 150 targets. You draft him. Round.
Bug it down. Over or under 145 targets?
Over.
I'm going under.
Over.
He's Michael Thomas. He's going to eat.
Over for sure. All I'm saying is don't let him slip to the 12th or 13th pick in your draft. No. If you have pick 8 through 9 or 8 through 10,
and that's why I couldn't let him slip.
Take Michael Thomas and then take the best running back on the way back.
But don't take Kamara on the way back.
The only league that I took Michael Thomas, I actually took him number 6. And that was just because I wanted to have him in a league because he is the CMC of wide receivers. Go look at the stats.
He is.
Yeah, the stats don't lie. I'm just saying. I don't think
they're second round pick guy.
He can still have 145 targets and finish as the number 1 wide receiver. That's all I'm saying. So let's move on to Alvin Kamara, ADP 104. This is probably one of the scarier situations. I don't know if you guys have heard or not. He's gotten the epidural in his back due to lower back pains.
Pregnant?
He came out and said, pregnant, right? He came out and said that he had the same thing done last year. As of today's episodes, they're closer than ever in terms of a contract extension. And I think the whole reason behind that is because the Saints are about to go into a very big face shift, right? With Drew Brees leaving the team in the next year or 2. And when you look at Alvin Kamara and a contract extension, it supersedes the next 2 years. He's going to probably sign a 4 or 3 year contract. You don't see him signing a 2-year extension. With that being said, though, I think he's a lock. I love the guy. We may have our disagreements when it comes to Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook, Joe and I. However, Joe's not wrong. 81 receptions over the last 2 years. That puts him in wide receiver territory, like top 10. And the guy's a beast in full PPR. He also added 797 rushing yards and 553 yards through the air. Latavius, what's that? And that's a down year, exactly. He dealt with some injuries last year. It makes Latavius Murray one of the premier handcuff options in the NFL. He also has relevance week to week as well. What do you guys think? I mean, he slipped all the way to the 9th pick in one of our drafts just a week ago. And I can rightly say that you guys were drafting ahead of me because I had the 9 spot. So what are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, I just think at that time his contract questions and injury questions were like a little bit at its peak. I think if we draft today, that doesn't happen.
Exactly.
But I don't know, man. It's a little bit to do. And if you want to talk about it, like I took Clyde Edwards-Helaire in that league at number 6, and I know what Kamara can do. He's gonna do it again. Whatever, like he's gonna do better than last year at least. So I just like the upside of a CEH a little bit more. Just who knows? Maybe CEH is the number 2 or 3 running back in the league fantasy wise. So I just want to take a chance, but I forget who else went right before Kamara, but he shouldn't drop to the number 9 pick. That's the thing. But when he was going number 4, so he should realistically be the 4th pick in a draft.
Yeah,
that's fair. I think he's there.
And Murray you got to draft Murray. Don't let your league mates get Murray and hold him.
Or else you're trading for him.
Joe Mixon went right before Kamara.
Well, that shouldn't have happened either.
I'd rather have Kamara.
See, people are taking bold picks, that's why.
Yeah, I'd rather have Kamara.
Cook at 7, which was 2 picks before Kamara. And I was debating between Cook and Kamara. And the reason that I went Dalvin Cook was because if you guys go back to last year and look, not last year, the year before, 2018, when Kamara had that crazy year where I think he was top 2 or 3, he had 18 touchdowns on the year. And last year he only had 6. And I love Alvin Kamara. He's probably my favorite running back in the league to watch from a talent perspective. I love when he gets the ball. Who the hell knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
But I just don't see him hitting that 18 touchdown mark again with them because Michael Thomas is there, because Emmanuel Sanders is there, because Cook, because Latavius Murray is a vulture, because they put in Taysom Hill and run these crazy things. I just think that was the perfect storm for him. So while I think that you have to take him as a top 5 or 6 running back, I don't think it's a big deal if you take Dalvin Cook or even Derrick Henry if you really like him above Kamara. I would say I'd like Kamara over Derrick Henry just because the catching, but Derrick Henry's going to get that goal line work and he's going to get quite a few more carries. So that's why I passed on him at 7. I thought it was ridiculous that he went past 8.
You guys got to think too. We had a Raiders fan take Josh Jacobs at number 3. So that's what kind of set everybody back. Every guy should have went a pick up.
You know, listening to Joe made me like Kamara more. To be honest, I'd rather have him over Cook.
He's a persuasion expert.
Yeah, Joe, you made a bad pick. I would have took Kamara over Cook.
No, man, I'm telling you because
it's too late. I'm already my mind's
goal line work, and he gets passing work, and
Kamara had 1,300 yards and 6 touchdowns and a bad year.
All right. Well, what about Jared Cook? Anybody drafted
Jared Cook is a top 10 with low upside.
Top 15.
I think he's 10.
I have him ranked in the top 10, but honestly, when he's going that late, I'd rather take guys with higher upside.
Yeah.
Rather than like Jared Cook. So I'm probably taking someone else.
I'd have him as my second tight end if I have a questionable guy. That's about it.
He's not going to repeat what he did with touchdowns last year, so I'm not even sure he's going to be fantasy relevant. Watch out for Josh Hill.
Doesn't Drew Brees like his tight ends though?
He does.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, Gabe, take us out, man.
All right. Yeah, we got some things to do, but guess what? Thank you so much for joining us. We're happy to have you here. As always, we're getting better every day. I don't know. We stutter a different times, but we're being all right. We're getting better. With that being said, thank you so much. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for our rankings episode. It's going to be exciting. And at that time, it's football season. So when we see you next, it's time to score some fantasy points.
Here.
Good night.